Part 47. Pokemon's Character Master. Author, Ai Ren Huo Xiao. Chapter 481. King Magikarp didn't know how long he had been floating on the sea, and he didn't know where he would drift with the waves. In the test of life and death, King Carp remembered that group of elves. Their names: the Overlord of the Sea, Megalodon. Fortunately, it seems that God is looking after the entire Magikarp army. In that near-death encounter, the heavy rain falling in the sky and the huge waves became an opportunity for the Magikarp army to break through the siege and shackles. The Carp King army, full of passionate fighting spirit that never admits defeat, gathered strong fighting spirit and courage in the face of the test of life and death, and evolved at critical moments to give them more opportunities to escape. Gyarados, the leader of the charge, did not know his specific whereabouts after leading the army to escape the pursuit. The waves dispersed the Carp King's army. At least, this Carp King was one of the ones washed away. Kalu. In Yang Yu's arms, the Carp King's eyes and dilated pupils were almost powerless and about to lose their color. On the Carp King's back, the golden crown had been broken at one corner, and the corners of his mouth could not help but tremble. The Carp King kept blowing bubbles from his mouth and tried hard to say everything. Little fish, healing bell. Magikarp needs your help now. Magikarp, stop talking. Magikarp, shut up first. Yang Yu didn't know what Carp King was cracking about now, but the situation at this time was extremely critical, and Carp King's injuries were almost fatal. No one can imagine what kind of perseverance it took to make a Carp King with a broken crown hold on until now. The little fish jumped out of the sea water, and with Dudu's help, fell into Dudu's conch cap. Xiao Xiao looked at Carp King, who was in Yang Yu's arms, with an extremely concerned expression. The healing bell, Ash, a melodious song, sounded on the back of the salted fish king. Big, big, small, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. The weak eyes of the Carp King looked at the small fish that seemed to be covered with golden light in front of it, and the corners of its mouth followed this familiar melody. This is the song that Wang sang with them. Quick, milk can, moo milk, Carp King, hold on. Wu Yukin had never shown such concern for a Carp King, and used a catheter to guide the milk in the cup. Magikarp's mouth. Quack. Oh dash. The fragrant geranium spread out on the back of the salted fish king, and at the same time, it sprinkled paralyzing powder on the body of the Carp King. The delicate vine whip, combined with pollen, wrapped the entire body of the Carp King. Quack. Geranium's brows were furrowed tightly, as if she were a surgeon performing a major surgery. Her eyes were extremely concerned, and she tried her best to save the seriously injured Carp King. Even though Magikarp may look stupid, the broken crown on his back is the immortal monument of this Magikarp. Not to mention, Geranium and its friends once received the grace of the Magikarp King at the most critical moment of the population. She will never forget the scene where she stretched out her beard and saluted Gyarados. At this time, the Carp King, at the last moment when he was about to fall into a deep sleep, tremblingly raised his beard and saluted in the direction of Yang Yu and the boss of the Salted Fish King. The picture is frozen at this moment. Save. Geraniums to the rescue. Mini Dragon, it's up to you, let me lend you your white belly. Yang Yu's voice was trembling. When the mini dragon lay flat on the back of the Salted Fish King in a daze under Yang Yu's operation, the rest clenched the super-powered spoon in his hand and placed the Carp King firmly on it. When it landed on the soft belly of the mini dragon was still dazed and didn't know what happened to itself. The temporary first aid has come to an end. The Salted Fish King's eyes were fixed on the direction in which little Bao was going away in the sea. Even the deep sea could not stop his golden eyes that were flashing with anger and electricity. The fleeing dark shadow lurking in the deep sea. Anyone who offends our Carp King army, will be killed no matter how far away. Salted Fish King, this Carp King has been completely rescued now. With the geranium here and the vitality of moo milk, the Carp King has been rescued. Yang Yu wiped the sweat from his forehead. He raised his head and looked dizzy at the Salted Fish King standing on the sea with his head raised. The deep momentum contained raging anger, and he looked deeply at the ocean, looking at the depths of the ocean. Roar. The roar of the Salted Fish King was low and depressing, like a muffled thunder, just waiting for the lightning that ripped apart the sky and the dark clouds, waiting for the deafening roar. The little dream demon grabbed Yang Yu's hair and didn't even dare to look at the injured Carp King with its eyes closed. Even during the operation, it still didn't dare to look. For the little dream monster. It is too early to say goodbye between life and death. Who dash. The deep sea bed seemed to recall an ethereal roar of pain. Ho ho ho. Above the sea, a giant blue beast suddenly jumped out. Scarlet blood stains spread on the sea, filling the surrounding sea with a strong smell of blood. In Xiao Bao Bao's ferocious mouth, an astonishing amount of flesh and blood was torn open, and the dark blue shark skin revealed the origin of that elf. It's the Megalodon. Wu Yuqian's expression changed. Ho ho ho. Xiao Bao Bao came to the side of the Salted Fish King with a guilty look on his face and spat out the flesh and blood torn in his mouth on the sea. It didn't stop the Megalodon forever. Roar. The Salted Fish King grinned, his fierce and coquettish look, his pupils flashed with ferocious light, and at the same time exuded cunning and wisdom. Xianyu dynasty nodded in the direction of Xiao Bao Bao, confirming its approach. Not staying is the best option. Blood stains in the deep sea. Guiding the right path. Roar. The Salted Fish King cast his gaze on Yang Yu and Dudu. At this moment, both Yang Yu and Dudu understood the decision made by King Xianyu at this moment. Salted Fish King, let's go save King Carp's army. Save Gyarados. Yang Yu gently patted the Salted Fish King's neck. Yeah. He took a step forward blankly, and at the same time a pot and spatula appeared in his hand. Yeah. The pots and spatulas spinning in Dede's hands finally stood firmly on Xiangxian's side with Dede. Huji. The little fish will never forget how the Magi Carp army helped it. Those are Xiao Xiao's friends. Isn't it? Quack. Geranium, glad to join the battle. When Geranium and the others needed help the most, the Magi Carp army helped them. Now, at the moment when the Magi Carp army needed help the most, Geranium is duty-bound. Are you going to hunt down the Megalodon? Ha ha ha, it's exciting just thinking about it. Junior brother Han, you can't leave me behind if you go like this again. Fighting for the Carp King, it's interesting, so interesting. Wu Rich himself didn't know what he was talking about, and his expression looked a little dazed, but when he saw the Carp King who was still saluting in his sleep. Perhaps, this is the reason. You. Senior brother Qian, thank you. It is more than words. Roar. Megalodon. Welcome the wrath of the Salted Fish King. Following the smell of blood. Full speed ahead. Huji. Keep asking for votes. Pokemon's Character Master. Author, AI Ren Huoqiang Xiao. Chapter 482. The leisurely schools of deep-sea fish suddenly began to flee in all directions, panicking and escaping in panic. We could only hope that the predators in the deep sea would chase other schools of fish. Whoosh! A figure with its huge teeth bared, but without the slightest intention of preying. At this moment, on the left side of the ferocious Megalodon, the torn flesh and blood was ferocious and terrifying, with gurgling blood trails, leaving a faint trail behind it. Path of. The Megalodon will never forget the speed of the Gyarados in the sea, and the impact of the spiraling vortex forcefully tore huge wounds on its body. This is not the previous Magi Carp who delivered food, but a Gyarados that is as ferocious as the Megalodon in the sea. Escape. The megalodon didn't dare to look back at all. It felt the fierce murderous intention behind it. It wants to escape back to the pack, to the territory of the megalodon, where, with the king's protection. A fierce light flashed in the eyes of the megalodon, and the Gyarados opened a huge wound on its body. You wait. Wait until I return to the tribe to report to the king. Kind of. Just follow along. Whoosh. The megalodon endured the pain of the wound on its body, gritted its teeth and made a horrifying sound of creeping, flicked its thick tail, and dived into the deep sea again. Not long after the megalodon dived, a pair of faint eyes flickered here, and the blue scales on its back that were obscured by darkness seemed to be lit with a ghost fire, emitting a strange blue light. Ho ho ho! Roar! Behind a huge blue shadow in front, a huge figure emitting purple light appeared. Under the purple light, you could clearly see the figure on the back of the giant Gyarados. Dadu, you have broken through the gym level. Powerful superpowers, even in the deep sea, can provide incredible protection for Yangyu and others. What a terrifying strength! Wu Yuqian looked at the dream-inducing taper beside him and rubbed his nose for a moment. It turns out that in the superpower protection barrier jointly created by Dede and dream-inducing taper also provided huge help. It's good now. As you dive into the sea, the feeling of oppression increases with the depth. Such oppression, with the dull adaptation, the bottleneck of strength is easily broken, as if it is an understatement and it should be taken for granted. Yeah. Dede took over the dream-inducing taper man's superpower barrier. The superpower spoon he held tightly in his hand, this incredible prop given to him by Lao Hu, made the barrier more stable. Salted Fish King, continue the pursuit. Yang Yu said categorically that the safety on his back could be completely guaranteed. Roar! Little Bayo Bayo had already set off early, and the clear electric grid in the eyes of the Salted Fish King made it impossible for things in the dark deep sea to escape. The Salted Fish King turned back and took a steady look at Tutu behind him. It was not moving very fast. This was one of the reasons why little Bayo Bayo chased ahead, because the Salted Fish King needed to take care of Yang Yu and Wu Yuqian behind him. And the Carp King, who was still deeply asleep and saluting deeply. Be their king. The Salted Fish King is deeply honored. Yeah. He patted his chest blankly and looked directly at Xian Xian with very serious eyes. If there is Tutu behind you, just go and take a shower. Salted Fish King, let's go. Yang Yu still repeated the sentence, this is the courage shown by the trainer of the Salted Fish King. Roar. The Salted Fish King nodded slightly and slowly turned his head. When his eyes were fixed on the blood-stained root that was clearly visible in his eyes, there was a wave of water. The Salted Fish King quickly increased his speed. The super barrier on its back quickly became streamlined. Under the rapid calculation in its mind, it once again tapped out some superpowers in its hands and attached them to the front of the barrier. In order to reduce the impact of the trainer on the elves when they were in the deep sea, and to lessen their hindrance, Wu Yuqian and Yang Yu were tied up by geranium and they quickly lay down side by side as if they were wearing seat belts. On the back of the Salted Fish King. In the deep sea chase, this is the only thing they can do. What a speed! Wu Yuqian could hear the vibrations of the surrounding water waves. In the deep sea, such fluctuations were like the sound of the abyss to him and Yang Yu. I'm afraid I will never forget this kind of journey for the rest of my life. Yang Yu's eyes fell on the mini dragon lying next to him. There was also a little dream monster lying on the mini dragon's head. At this time, the cute and greedy confused dragon and the somewhat lazy little dream monster may be the soothing relief in the dull and dark deep sea. The seriously injured Carp King was almost out of danger, but he was still sleeping. Next to the Carp King, a small golden fish still looked at it worriedly from time to time. What a little fish can do. Too little, too little. Its strength, now, can only be used as a healing ringtone. If you can be like Minos, who transformed into the Aurora in the Dragon Palace. Little Xiao, you can do it, you definitely can. Xiao Xiao, who had made up his mind deeply in his heart, closed his eyes and felt every corner of his body and his experiences along the way. If you can evolve. Oh dash. In the deep sea, there was an ethereal whale cry. Like an ancient voice coming from the ancient world, in this deep sea, people feel a deep palpitation. Yang Yu and Wu Yuqin looked in the direction of the ethereal voice almost simultaneously, through the purple superpower barrier. However, the visibility in the deep sea still did not allow them to see the mysterious elf clearly. Just like Yang Yu and Wu Yuqin's reaction, the mini-dragon lying in a daze on the back of the salted fish king and the dazed little dream demon lying on the head of the mini-dragon raised their heads almost simultaneously and looked at them blankly. In the deep sea. Yes, it's the roaring whale king, right? Yang Yu couldn't help but guess. There should be only the howling whale king. When the forest is deep, we see deer, and when the sea is blue, we see whales. We have probably reached the depths of the Pacific along the way. It is not surprising to meet the howling whale king. Wu Yuqin exhaled a filthy breath, his mind was also shaking. We will have the opportunity to meet in the future, but we have more important things. Yang Yulian reluctantly looked away. No matter what it was, it could not stop the purpose of their trip. Following the giant toothed shark, perhaps Yang Yu could see the army of carp kings drifting in the ocean. The separation at Meteor Lake a few months ago and the encounter on the vast sea were perhaps the honor of Yang Yu's life. The salted fish king was not affected by the roar of the whale at all, and his pupils gradually began to become serious. Xiao Baobao stopped in front. The megalodon seemed to be fiercely confronting little Rampage on the other side. Behind the megalodon, the mist of the deep sea, greatly affected little Baobao's vision, but it could not be hidden from the eyes of the salted fish king. Ho ho ho! Roar! Just when little Bao Bao was about to rush forward to fight with the giant toothed shark, the salty fish king's deep roar immediately stopped little Bao Bao's impulse. Huzzah! The seriously injured megalodon grinned a ferocious smile. The next second, in the mist of the deep sea behind, its companion appears. Megalodon swarm. Little Bao Bao, grinning. The salted fish king also smiled. Asking for votes daily. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Pokemon's Character Master. Author, AI Ren Huoqiang Xiao. Chapter 483. The salty fish king can see the group of megalodon sharks in the mist of the deep sea. On the other hand, megalodon cannot. The dull purple superpower light is inconspicuous in the deep sea. In order to avoid additional trouble, in the thick deep sea fog, this purple light cannot be found unless the distance is very close. Look, there's a lone Gyarados here, why don't we? The groups of megalodon sharks seemed to have seen fresh prey, and this was a powerful elf that was enough to arouse the excitement of the group of megalodon sharks. Gyarados. They can't wait to tear the Gyarados in front of them to pieces, and take the remaining body and scales of the Gyarados to gain cheers and glory among the group. Their eyes have been dazzled by the glory of that group. There is a group of them here with this lone Gyarados, and their numbers alone are enough to crush the lone Gyarados. Whoosh! The megalodon, whose body was still in pain from the wound, seemed to be able to see it and its companions tearing the hateful Gyarados into pieces to avenge the huge hatred torn from its body. However, the megalodon group only saw, the face of the lone Gyarados also had a mocking smile, which made the megalodon group even more violent. Who dash? The eyes of the megalodon, which opened its huge mouth and bit at little Bao Bao, almost exploded ferociously. This bite seemed to tear a hole from little Bao Bao's body. However, when the megalodon's eyes began to appear, when the red light beam rolled towards its mouth, being completely engulfed by that beam of light. This was the last image it saw. There is no restraint, no emotion, just, the purest anger. Anyone who offends our Carp King army will be killed no matter how far away. The moment the light beam appeared, all the surviving megalodons seemed to have been cast a restraining spell. They looked at those megalodons rushing at the front, those who had their eyes wide open and completely died without knowing what was happening. Shark. Behind that blue figure. Slowly, a more terrifying Gyarados appeared. There was even a deep evil smile on the face of the giant Gyarados. I found you. Escape. The sudden dark red beam of light completely defeated the megalodon sharks that were proudly rushing to the front. It was like a thunderous strike, bringing fear to the remaining megalodon sharks. Escape. There was only one thought left in the minds of the remaining megalodons. The life-depriving dark red beam of light had already destroyed their confidence with just one move. Who wants to stay here, taste fear? These giant toothed sharks, which were not powerful and were just like minions, turned their heads desperately and fled quickly in the direction where they could finally rely on. Especially the megalodon that had been bitten with a large wound by Gyarados. When it saw the smile on Gyarados' face, its first thought was to tear the Gyarados to pieces with its companions. Now, it can't laugh anymore. Behind the lonely Gyarados, a huge black shadow slowly emerged, and the dark red dragon's fury, which seemed to be exuding deathly fluctuations, burst out from his mouth. Why, there is such a huge Gyarados. Boom. The Megalodon group was in chaos, completely in chaos, as if the black shadow was a demon emerging from the abyss, and the terrifying dragon's fury was enough to deprive them of their lives. Ho ho ho. With the support of the Salted Fish King, Xiao Baobao's eyes flashed with fierce murderous intent, and the taunting smile on his lips was now filled with ruthless blood. Go. Cyclone Charge Tornado. The small storms spinning on the bottom of the sea are driving terrifying water fluctuations, spiraling forward like a whirlwind water knife, and attacking those panicked megalodons, which will inevitably cause extremely huge damage to them. Boom. The incredible rotation speed, the moment when the spiral tornado chased a giant toothed shark, Xiao Baobao opened his ferocious mouth that had tasted blood. At this moment, there was no mercy, since he dared to surround Xiao Baobao. You must have the consciousness to be killed by Xiao Baobao. The sea is a paradise for the strong and a hell for the weak. Dumb, be careful later. Superpower moves are ineffective against megalodons with evil attributes. Yang Yu gasped for air. The sea was filled with the smell of megalodon blood, which was the ground is pungent. Yeah. Dada nodded seriously. Perhaps in this battle, there aren't many people who can help Xian in this battle. The only one who may have to rely on it is Xian himself. But Dede can protect Yang Yu and Wu Yuqian. The Carp King army is fleeing quickly on the sea. Behind them, there are 3 Gyarados blocking their rear. After experiencing tsunamis and heavy rains, the Gyarados leader, who thought he could successfully escape the pursuit of the Megalodon, still thought the Megalodon was too simple. Megalodon Group. The real reason why Megalodon is called the Overlord in the ocean is not only because of the individual strength of the Megalodon group, but also, among this group, there is a king of Megalodon with extraordinary strength. Overlord Megalodon. For this type of Overlord elf with extremely strong territorial awareness, any elf that comes to its territory will arouse the strong territorial awareness of the Overlord Megalodon. Unfortunately, the army of Magikarp and Gyarados arrived in the ocean territory of the Megalodon group. Cluck K. Ka. King Magikarp is not slow to escape in the sea. In order to escape the pursuit of the Megalodon, they temporarily divided into 3 teams. Under the leadership of the 3 Gyarados, they escaped in 3 ways, but they were still able to converge in the end. Unfortunately, nothing can escape the eyes of the Overlord Megalodon. The Overlord Megalodon with incredible wisdom is not the ordinary Megalodon who only knows how to savagely charge. The cunning and intelligent overlord Megalodon is chasing and guiding this group of Magikarp and the three Gyarados, entering the final encirclement. If it weren't for the huge waves and heavy rain a few days ago, his plan would have completely wiped out this group of Magikarp, including the Gyarados. However, it can be done now, but it only takes a little more time. The overlord Megalodon enjoys using his wisdom to hunt and round up these little elves who like to run around. The prey will escape step by step into the final encirclement in his hunting plan, giving hope to the last moment. Crush them to meet true despair. The game of big fish chasing small fish, it's almost time to end. The overlord Megalodon hidden under the sea reveals its ferocious and neat teeth. The next action is to close the net. The Megalodon is surrounding it from other places. Let's enjoy this fun chase feast together. Hoo! Hoo ho ho ho! A familiar voice came from the seabed not far away. The voice did not sound like an excited roar when chasing prey, but like being hunted. Hoo! On the sea surface, a huge terrifying figure jumped up. It was a Megalodon shark. The Megalodon shark felt the aura of the king. His king was just ahead. The moment the Megalodon thought he could be saved in the king's domain, his last smile showed on his lips. Ho ho ho! The spiral knife rising from the bottom of the sea struck the giant toothed shark hard. This is the final despair. All the Gyarados stopped swimming, and all the Magikarps also stopped at this crucial moment. The dark and fierce murderous intent behind them had completely stopped, and their eyes were filled with incredible wonder. Looking at the Megalodon that was knocked away by the tornado, the Megalodon began to whine in pain in the air. The next second, a crimson beam of light shot straight from the bottom of the sea and struck the falling Megalodon. The expression of the overlord Megalodon changed. Roar! The body of the salted fish king broke out of the sea and resounded loudly throughout the world. The Carp King army was completely boiling. The salted fish king with scarlet eyes looked down in the air. King, come! Pokemon's Character Master. Author, AI Ren Huoqiang Xiao. Chapter 484. Whoop. Under the calm sea surface, it was like an arched mountain range, filled with roars of anger and indifference, like exploding and detonated light balls, roaring towards the surroundings. The breath of terror swept across the entire sea, and the sea area where the sound waves spread, the rolling tsunami rushed towards the Carp King army. In the territory of the overlord Megalodon, he killed the Megalodon in his group in front of him. For such provocation, he wanted to make the giant Gyarados in the sky pay the price. The huge waves caused by the water jets were like the sea opening its ruthless bloody mouth, swallowing down the Carp Kings and the Gyrocarp. Roar! The salty fish king's scarlet pupils flashed with cold light as he moved towards the direction of the Carp King's army at lightning speed. Let's go, senior brother Qian, the air is now up to you. Yang Yu made a quick decision. Wu Yuqian felt the blood all over his body. Okay, no problem, come out, Bai Diao. Hold head high. A white and yellowish light flashed in the air. Yang Yu, Wu Yuqian, and all the other elves on the back of the salted fish king instantly transferred to the back of Wu Yuqian's Bai Diao under the help of dumb superpowers. Tropical Dragon, Geranium. Oh no! Got twist. At this moment, all Wu Yuqian's previous preparations came into use. Almost all the elves retained all their physical strength, which played a vital role in this extremely urgent moment. Roar! The salty fish king let out another deafening roar, and just under the Carp King's army, on the side facing the tsunami that was about to be swallowed up by the huge waves, the wall of water quickly rose. Serve! The mighty and resolute body of the salty fish king came in front of the Carp King's army and the three Gyarados. Little Gyarados returned to his position almost at the same time. As the water wall under him got higher and higher. Ho ho ho! Go! Cluck K! Ka! Follow the king, step on the top of the wave, and charged towards the tsunami wave. Salted fish, thrust. In less than 3 breaths, in the tense atmosphere where Yang Yu and Wu Yuqian clenched their fists, the salted fish king stood on the top of the wave, impacting at the forefront of the wave, and was about to lead the wall of water behind him and push the huge wave away. Swallowed by the waves. The huge waves of the tsunami hit the water wall, causing splashes of water. However, the surfing water wall, which was higher and more determined than the huge waves, not only was not swallowed by the huge waves, but had begun to shine. It uses even sharper fangs to want to swallow up all the oncoming tsunami waves. Roar. All the momentum in Salted Fish King's body exploded at this moment, and the huge wave in front of him. It's just the effect of water jets. This is surfing, the domain of the Salted Fish King. Boom. Among the Carp King's army above the wall of water, just after the wall of water completely swallowed up the huge waves, the incredible light of evolution began to shine. The realm of the Salted Fish King, the intimidation of surfing, the courage to fight against the huge waves of the tsunami, and the unyielding belief of the Magi Carp King. Evolved. Wu Yuqian gritted his teeth, his eyes blank. No wonder, in inland waters, it is almost difficult to see the evolution of the Carp King. This is the entire population. Showing unparalleled confidence and pride in times of crisis, is also the leadership role of the Salted Fish King. What's more important is that you have to have your own strength and evolution, not someone else's evolution. Yang Yu was already dazzled. In the high altitude, the heads of the Gyarados evolving from King Carp to Gyarados below were on top of the waves. Too sparkly. Yeah. The smile on Dada's face became serious little by little, and in the center of the calm sea where the tsunami spread, slowly, a terrifying figure emerged. Yang Yu, then, what is that? How could there be such a big megalodon? When Wu Yuqian was still sighing in relief, his pupils shrank, and the huge thing that appeared in the ocean in the corner of his eyes almost made him breathless. Come. Megalodon, Overlord. Yang Yu uttered 5 words in a daze. Hold head high. When the giant shadow in the sea completely emerged above the ocean, the Baidiao and tropical dragon in the air couldn't help but tremble. Be careful. Baidiao, wake up. Wu Yuqian quickly grabbed the longest bright red feather on Baidiao's head. Baidiao was affected by the Overlord Megalodon with a terrifying aura below him, and even a hint of chaos. Quack. The same thing happened to Geranium behind Tropical Dragon. Sensing something was wrong with Tropical Dragon's situation, he even used his Vine Whip and hit Tropical Dragon hard on the head. The Vine Whip does almost no harm to the Tropical Dragon with both grass and flying elements, but it can completely wake up the Tropical Dragon from fear. At the same time, the petals on the neck of the Geranium quickly emit a wave of energy that can calm the elf's mind. Breath. Oh no. Tropical Dragon, who was affected by the terrifying aura, finally woke up a little. When he turned around and found Geranium whipping him with a Vine Whip, there was still confusion and grievance in his eyes, and he hadn't even realized what had just happened. Quack. Quack. Geranium pointed at the terrifying figure on the sea below, and Tropical Dragon couldn't help but fly up a little further. However, what greeted the Tropical Dragon was another slap from the Vine Whip. Yang Yu, something is wrong with this Megalodon. His intimidating aura is a bit too scary. This is the Overlord Megalodon that is about to approach the strength of the King of Heaven. Wu Yuqian's eyelids twitched and he looked at behind the dominant Megalodon. A group of triangle fish fins filled with a terrifying aura appeared on the sea. Heavenly King, Yang Yu's heart skipped a beat, but he still asked carefully, Senior Brother Qian, you are not yet at the level of King of Heaven, right? Are you just close to the King of Heaven? What do you mean by not being a king? This is almost a substantial intimidation aura. My Baidiao just now, even the elite Baidiao who is about to break through to the gym level, can't resist such intimidation. If it is the king of heaven, at this point we are likely to fall. Cold sweat dripped from Wu Yukin's forehead. Yeah. Dede nodded very seriously. He had felt this powerful aura from Kuai Long in the Dragon Palace secret realm, but it was not as powerful as Kuai Long. Even so, the strength of this overlord Megalodon was also extremely terrifying. Yang Yu, you decide what to do next. Behind the overlord Megalodon, which is close to the strength of the King of Heaven, a large number of Megalodon sharks appeared. Although those Megalodon sharks are not strong, they are in the sea. I believe in my salted fish king. Yang Yu shook his head. It's just a gym level. He's not the king yet, is he? It depends on the choice of the salted fish king. If he wants to fight, then fight. Okay. 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 In this case, then I will join you and have a good fight with these bullies in the ocean. Come out, giant pincer mantis. Wu Yukin's eyes were firm, and there seemed to be countless thoughts in his chest. The passion surges. A red steel elf like a mecha appeared in the sky. At the same time, Wu Yukin's dream-inducing taper also came to the giant pincer mantis and used his superpower to hold it up. The giant pincer mantis and the flying mantis are coated with metal coating, and their entire body is made of steel. The red armor makes them look extraordinary. Although he doesn't have gym-level strength, when facing evil spirits, fight violence with violence, Wu Yukin raised the corners of his mouth and smiled coldly. Fight violence with violence. First update. Pokémon's Character Master. Author, AI Ren Huo Xiangxiao. Chapter 485. The sea seems calm. However, on the sea, there were two giant beasts confronting each other coldly. The air on the sea seemed to have solidified, like a substantial intimidating aura, fighting in the center. The overlord Megalodon showed an icy smile with its majestic mouth, and the corners of its mouth were raised as if it could not wait to taste the blood of the overlord Gyarados. Oh, it's still a strange overlord Gyarados. In the ocean, in addition to the overlord Megalodon, there are other overlord elves, such as the Spiny Dragon King, the Roaring Whale King, etc. They have their own territory, and they do not interfere with each other. Unexpectedly, today, a strange overlord Gyarados would appear in the territory of his overlord Megalodon. Although the aura of this new overlord, Gyarados, is not weak, it is still not enough for him, the king of the Megalodon group. Now that I'm here, I have to leave something behind. The group of Megalodons behind the overlord Megalodon can't wait to follow their king and tear apart all the newly evolved Gyarados in front of them. But it was the first hearty meal ever. This group of Megalodon sharks, even if they are a group, still look like a piece of scattered sand. However, with their IQ, they are absolutely unable to realize their situation. After all, for the Megalodon shark at the top of the food chain, there is no need for any cues when hunting, just feed as much as you like. The salted fish king did not act rashly. While his eyes were fixed on the overlord Megalodon in the front, he also paid attention to the messy team of Megalodon behind the overlord Megalodon. The salted fish king is gathering all the anger in his body. In this solemn atmosphere, facing the overlord Megalodon, which is even more powerful than him, the salted fish king needs more anger and more team cohesion. Behind. There are at least 6 or 7 Gyarados born in this group of Magikarp King's army. In addition to the previous 3, as well as baby Gyarados, there are no less than 10 Gyarados behind the salty fish king at this moment. The Gyarados team is in neat formation. Even after evolving, they have not forgotten the original square formation. The Gyarados forming a plane head formation tightly protected the Magikarp army behind them, waiting for the king's order. The ambition to be trapped in a battle will lead to death but not life. There is no fear in their hearts. As early as when there were only 3 Gyarados in the team, they had no fear of the Megalodon group and rushed through layers of blockades. Even though they were seriously injured, they remained perseverant. Now, there are more Gyarados in their team. Manic emotions began to grow freely in the hearts of the newly promoted Gyarados. They had been hunted by Megalodon during the days of Magikarp. For these Magikarp, they wished they had great strength, just like that. Just like the Gyarados leader who protects them, if they can evolve, they will also protect the Magikarp army. Now, their dream has come true. This battle is for the Carp King, for the dream, for the king. Roar. The salted fish king let out the hottest roar in the sky, and all the powerful vitality in his body was running at this moment, driving extremely violent anger, bombarding the levels of life in the salted fish king, breaking through the shackles of life, and breaking through the power of strength. Level. Gym level. A dull film of strength broke through calmly at this moment. The fiery regenerative power seemed to ignite the entire body of the salted fish king again. Serve, sweep. The salted fish king, with the Carp King army behind him, and the internal formation protected by the sharp knives formed by the Gyarados army, charged towards the Ocean Overlord, the Overlord Megalodon and the Megalodon group. Overlord Megalodon's gloomy pupils shrank. He still couldn't imagine that the Gyarados group, which was definitely weaker than their Megalodon group in terms of combat power, would actually, led by Overlord Gyarados, take the lead. He could feel that when the opponent's Overlord Gyarados rushed towards them, the sword-like aura was moving forward, as if it could break through his intimidating aura as an Overlord, and with the power of the terrifying water wall, next, even, under the sunlight passing through the water wall, the charging Overlord Gyarados even began to flash with a mysterious red flame. Who dash? Who? 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 The Overlord Megalodon gave an order, and no less than 30 or 40 Megalodon sharks behind him surged up like crazy, following behind the king, towards the overconfident Gyarados group in front of them, sprinting. The rapids spraying around the Overlord Megalodon are like forming sharp sword blades in the water. The Megalodon sharks behind also use water jet moves, like thousands of arrows fired at the group. The charging Gyarados shot out with a bang. Roar. The golden light flashed in the eyes of the salty fish king. In his eyes, it was enough to judge the water jets with terrifying speed like arrows. At this important moment of charge, even water-type moves would be harmful to the entire Gyarados due to their speed, army, causing terrible damage to the entire Magikarp army. Wall of water. Fall. The salted fish king, whose strength has reached the gym level, controls the surfing water wall, as if exerting an upward force on the stage under the charge. The falling of the water wall behind them also increases the height of their charge again, shooting straight out. The jet of water, can it still turn? Whoosh whoosh. The height raised by the surf allowed these arrow-like rapids to completely pass through the water wall below, and the salty fish king led the Gyarados army and the Carp King army on the higher waves, towards the Megalodon shark swallowing down in the direction. Hoo-hoo. The Overlord Megalodon grinned ferociously, and his body suddenly moved. With its huge head and sharp fangs, it opened its bloody mouth towards the giant Gyarados salt fish king that fell from the sky. Boom. On the sea surface, colliding giant waves tens of meters high were aroused, and the splashing sea water shot straight into the sky. The angry colored head of the salted fish king suddenly collided with the head of the Overlord Megalodon. The terrifying fluctuations completely erupted under the fierce eyes of the two pairs of people. Roar. This is the most terrifying opponent the salted fish king has ever encountered. The Overlord Megalodon, who was almost as powerful as a king, had almost no huge impact on it due to the terrifying collision force all over its body. When the Megalodon's bloody fangs tried to close, the salty fish king's triceratops horn swung in. The Megalodon opened a hideous wound at the corner of its mouth. The Overlord Megalodon's pupils were scarlet, and he struck with anger. The jet of water suddenly exploded beside him, like a high-energy bomb, exploding in the salty fish king's neck. Roar. The bodies of the salty fish king and the overlord megalodon swung away from each other on both sides, and the aftermath of the collision stirred up super powerful water splashes around them that were comparable to surfing. The Gyarados army led the Magikarp kings, and rushed into the chaotic megalodon formation. An army of Magikarp kings that had received the guidance of the Salty King's orthodox formation. Oh no, a group of Magikarp kings have already evolved into Gyarados. Under the indestructible formation, actually tore an incredible hole in the megalodon formation. The Gyarados army and the Magikarp army, under this impact, caused extremely incredible damage to the megalodon formation. Roar. The salted fish king glanced at him from the corner of his eye, his mouth cold. Your opponent is me. King vs King. Well, hurry up and vote, there will probably be 5 more updates later. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Pokemon's Character Master. Author, AI Ren Huoqiang Xiao. Chapter 486. The situation on the other side of the Megalodon group was not enough to attract the attention of the Overlord Megalodon. In his opinion, it was not too simple to defeat only a dozen Gyarados and the Magikarp who had no fighting power. However, just now the collision. The Overlord Megalodon licked the wound on its mouth that was cut by the blue Triceratops horn. The Overlord Megalodon, which had not been seriously injured for a long time, had a ray of solemnity in its deep scarlet pupils. Who? There was a hint of cunning in the corner of Overlord Megalodon's eyes. Although he was a little injured, the Overlord Gyarados just now was definitely not feeling well either. The powerful water jet is the favorite and best move of the Overlord Megalodon. It is so fast. Compared with other moves, this move is like a sharp sword in the shadow. Every time it is used, it will be invincible. Roar. The salted fish king was about to strike again. When he changed direction, he suddenly felt the area that had just been swollen and hit, and made a harsh click, click, click sound. The body suddenly stopped. What's wrong? Yang Yu, who was worried about the big collision just high in the sky, noticed something was wrong with the salted fish king. Is it the collision just now? However, the collision just now should not have affected the upper part of the salted fish king's neck. Wu Yuqian looked confused. Yeah. When splashing waves were generated during the collision, in order to avoid being affected by the waves full of collision potential, Baidiao and Tropical Dragon moved farther away from the venue where the two giant beasts were facing each other below. Under the cover of the huge waves, the details of the collision could not be seen. It was known to Yang Yu and Wu Yuqian, but Dede vaguely discovered a little secret in it. Overlord Megalodon. The rapids beside you. Quack. Geranium challenged Wu Yuqian to fight on the back of Tropical Dragon. The group of Megalodon sharks below clashed with the Carp King army protected by the Gyarados army. The Gyarados tore a hole in it. The chaotic battle situation made Geranium, who had been saved by the Magikarp army, was clutching her heart. Geranium, Tropical Dragon, pay attention to safety. Giant Pincer Mantis, Dream-Inducing Taper, you all come together. Dream-Inducing Taper is responsible for assisting Giant Pincer Mantis. Giant Pincer Mantis, it depends on your violent output. Wu Yuqian did not any hesitation, issue an attack order. The situation on the battlefield below is very clear. The Salted Fish King has restrained the Overlord Megalodon, and the remaining Megalodon group is chasing Gyarados and the Magikarp group. In a confrontation that is almost at the level of a king, Wu Yuqian has no chance. Method, especially in this deep sea. Mum. The mini-dragon, which had never seen such a dangerous situation before, couldn't help but put its head into Yang Yu's arms, and even hid behind Yang Yu, not daring to watch the confrontation below, the showdown between the Salted Fish King and the Overlord Megalodon. Just the impact and sound of the collision is enough to make the mini dragon feel frightened. The little dream monster closed its eyes and bit its hand. Perhaps at the beginning, it wanted to help, but now, it can only pray in its heart. The salted fish king must win. The gap in strength is like an insurmountable gap. Even if you want to help, in this most difficult moment, not helping is the best help. In the eyes of the little fish lying on the edge of the hat, at this moment, only the salted fish king Dada is left, praying in his heart, praying. Salted fish king, you must work hard. Holding the hat, Dada was always paying attention to the battlefield around him. The golden light on his fingertips was trying to help Xian strike at the Overlord Megalodon in the air, but the moment the Overlord Megalodon sank rapidly, rapids surged upwards on the sea surface. The sharp water arrows seemed to be about to kill Bai Diao in the air and Yang Yu, Wu Yuqian, and Dada on Bai Diao. The elf shoots down. Hold head high. As Bai Diao fluttered his wings and was about to fly, he discovered that the water arrow below began to emit an icy chill inexplicably. This jet of water with icy coldness affected the speed of Bai Diao's wings. That's too late. Yeah. Dada held the super spoon in his hand and made heavy strokes in the air, and a reflective shield appeared out of thin air under Bai Diao. Click, click, click. When the cold water arrows shot at the reflective shield, they made a crunching collision sound like boulders. Finally, Bai Diao, who was freed from the cold lock, fluttered its wings and soared at this moment. At about the same time, the super stunned the reflective shield under the spoon suddenly shattered. Roar! The wounds on the salty fish king's body finally no longer affected the rotation of his neck due to the recovery of his regenerative power. The vital parts that had been secretly attacked by the megalodon during the collision were filled with rage at this moment. This dominant megalodon. He actually attacked Bai Diao in the air. You know, on Bai Diao's back, but there were Yang Yu, the trainer of Salted Fish King, and Yang Yu's companion Wu Yuqian, and more importantly, Dudu. Attack Dudu. Boom. The Salted Fish King's eyes were bright red. If he hadn't used his reflective shield with all his strength just now, he would have struggled to block the ice arrow that was full of murderous intent and could pierce through both wings of the eagle. The consequences could be disastrous. The eyes of the Salted Fish King were filled with full anger. The bright red and hot anger began to flow from the mind of the Salted Fish King to the whole body. At this time, the anger permeating the whole body was more intense and hotter than before. When the anger reached a certain critical point, it reached the gate that was about to break through. The Salted Fish King sprints towards the insidious and cunning Overlord Megalodon. Let the dragon dance, baptize your whole body. The scarlet red covered up the unique bright blue of the Salted Fish King. At this moment, just like blood pouring into the Salted Fish King's body, in this deep blue sea, it was extremely coquettish, and the majestic life energy swept away, causing the sea area to arouse attention all creatures in. The Salty Fish King's body began to swell, and his slender and powerful beard began to slowly thicken, and a dazzling dragon's wrathful beam of light came out of his mouth, as if he wanted to pierce the Overlord Megalodon. The sinister eyes of the Overlord Megalodon made a decision quickly. The aura of this Overlord Gyarados has been increasing. However, the move that the Overlord Megalodon just made against the eagle has already worked. If it goes deep into the seabed, the Overlord Gyarados is bound to come after him. The water jets quickly penetrate deep into the seabed, and fight the Overlord Gyarados in the deep sea environment where he is best. The Salted Fish King, who discovered the movement of the Overlord Megalodon, quickly swept the giant tail. In the dance of the tail, the dragon dance state was completed. That was, red just now. Red Salted Fish King. In the tense moment of controlling Bai Diao to escape from the ice arrow, a mysterious color like red cloud seemed to appear in the corners of Wu Yuqian's eyes. Even under the crystal clear coating shell, that touch of red was like flowing hot blood. Am I dazzled, or is there something wrong with the color of the sun? Wu Yuqian murmured in his mouth. When he took a closer look again, on the sea, the salted fish king and the overlord Megalodon had fallen into the deep sea bed. Just from the air, it was impossible to see the specific details below. Condition. Yeah. Dede hugged his golden conch cap tightly in his arms, just like he hugged the red little Xian Xian. When the overlord Megalodon attacked them, it completely angered Xian Xian. That was the most terrifying scene for Xian Xian. If only Dede had the ability to protect Xian Xian. This way Xian Xian won't become as scary as blood. The small fish in the golden conch cap, its crystal eyes seemed to be attracted by the red scales on the body of the salted fish king. This scene, hidden in the deepest memory of Xiao Xiao's mind. That one, Scarlet Gyarados. Continue. Pokemon's Character Master. Author, AI Ren Huo Xiangxiao. Chapter 487. The silent sea surface is silent, as if only the small waves blown by the wind are left. The wings of the eagle flying in the sky were still trembling, and there was always trembling movement on its body. Hold head high. Even Bai Diao's voice was muted. In the confrontation between the two giant beasts below, it didn't even dare to make any sound. The water arrows stirred up by the overlord Megalodon turned into ice arrows, and they were just a hair away. If it hadn't been for the dull reflection shield that resisted the penetration of a wave of ice arrows, Bai Diao might have fallen into the sea long ago. Yang Yu, just now, were my eyes dazzled. Is that a red Gyarados? Wu Yuqian looked at the empty sea and was confused for a moment. Red Gyarados. Isn't Gyarados blue? Yang Yu's salted fish king has always been blue, but why, just now the body of the salted fish king appeared as bright red as the sunrise? How is this possible? Gyarados is not like an elf like Hua Baibai. If it changes its habitat, it will change its color, from blue, to red, and even become more terrifying. What is going on? Yang Yu took a deep breath, his expression still silent. At this time, the scarlet salted fish king who went deep into the bottom of the sea to fight the overlord Megalodon, couldn't clearly see the shocking showdown on the bottom of the sea. Yang Yu's heart was tightly clenched. Yang Yu nodded slightly, unable to see the duel in the deep sea, his mood became even more worried. Yeah. Da patted Yang Yu's shoulder lightly, then slowly sat down on Bai Diao, closed his eyes, stretched out Lao Huidi's super spoon, and began to use all his superpowers to penetrate deep sea sensing. On Xiangxian's body, there is a dull mark. You can feel the salty situation. Yang Yu looked at the calm figure who closed his eyes. Suddenly he remembered something and closed his eyes at the same time. Predicting the future, how could I forget this thing? Predicting the future, why is it that at this time, the prediction of the future has not been lit yet? Yang Yu closed his eyes and searched in his mind for the incredible forbidden move that Lao Hu had taught him. If Yang Yu could light up the grey prediction of the future, perhaps he could decide in advance between the salted fish king and the overlord this time. Megalodon duel situation. But predicting the future, there is still no light. Etc. A flash of ecstasy flashed in Yang Yu's heart, knowing that the future was not lit up at this moment, which meant, this time, it was not a real crisis moment, the salted fish king would definitely win. Just when Yang Yu and Dada closed their eyes at the same time, the elf egg in the glass incubator suddenly trembled. But for a moment, in this solemn atmosphere, no one noticed this small detail. Huji. The little fish clung to the edge of the golden conch cap, stuck out its head, and looked at the calm sea below. It wanted to jump into the deep sea to find the salted fish king Dada. However, the little fish also knew that if you really jump into the sea at this moment, you are not helping the salted fish king, but you are harming him. The little fish will not cause much trouble to the salted fish king. The salted fish king must return safely. Defeat the shark bully who bullied Magikarp. The little fish's fins firmly grasped the edge of the golden conch cap, and the golden scales on its body shone even more dazzlingly under the sunlight. The Overlord Megalodon shuttles through the sea area it is most familiar with. In terms of speed and familiarity with the field, it can easily swim through even the twists and turns of the seabed faults, and can even cause a violent attack on the Overlord behind it. Carp dragons cause some trouble. However, when the Overlord Megalodon heard the roaring movement behind him and felt the increasing deep-sea fluctuations behind him, his eyes suddenly widened. Boom 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 boom. There are no fancy operations, no fancy moves. A terrifying beam of light directly hit the obstacle in front, and then, a salty fish thrust. To put it simply and crudely, no matter where the Overlord Megalodon chooses to fight, the Scarlet Salted Fish King will definitely fight to the end, because the Overlord Megalodon actually dares to sneak attack Yang Yuhi and the others in the air. Overlord Megalodon stopped taunting him. He was just looking at the gym-level Overlord Gyarados. He didn't know why after his whole body turned red, he actually had the strength to rival his Overlord Megalodon. He didn't know what a Super Saiyan was, and he didn't know what would happen if he attacked Dede. Now, the Scarlet Salted Fish King is the answer to the Overlord Megalodon. Boom! The corner of the Overlord Megalodon's mouth was cold. At this moment, it finally arrived at its home base in the deep sea. The water jets blasted out around it, carrying the dust and mist in the venue, suddenly shot out in the direction of the Overlord Gyarados. The dust and mist here, is not ordinary dust. Here, there are graves where countless powerful elves are buried. Those elves fell in the terrifying teeth of the Overlord Megalodon, ice fangs, poisonous fangs. Here, there is a lifeless atmosphere. It was dark and cold, just like a plague place. Zhyla. The expression of the Overlord Megalodon suddenly changed. This Overlord Gyarados, is he crazy? Using the scattered lightning and thunder at the bottom of the sea, is this the rhythm of dying with his Overlord Megalodon? Pure lightning is enough to purify everything around the fog, the so-called dust, the so-called plague. Under the vitality of lightning and thunder, it is even as if it is transcended by the lightning. These fogs that have condensed in the venue and do not want to dissipate are scattered in all directions. The terrifying power grid formed by the lightning and thunder, is extinct. The Scarlet Salted Fish King grinned mockingly. It's time for this dead land to be completely reborn under the lightning full of life. Break the delusion. The terrifying electric light radiating from the body of the Salty Fish King, with an aura of vitality, swept away the main arena of the Overlord Megalodon. In this move, the arena flipped. The layer of fog in the deep sea completely dissipated, and the lifeless and seemingly dead seaweed on the seafloor even began to glow with some greenery of life. I bring life and hope. The electric light blocked the torrent that formed the sword light on the seafloor, penetrated the torrent, and locked onto the Overlord Megalodon. The Overlord Megalodon's eyes were split open. What did he see? Why? Why is this Overlord Gyarados not afraid of thunder and lightning? Even the Overlord Gyarados, with thunder and lightning scattered all over his body, suddenly lighting up the whole place, is like the king of thunder and lightning, controlling thunder and lightning. The Overlord Megalodon's pupils shrank, and an extremely powerful black wave spread out all over his body, a wave of evil. However, the Overlord Megalodon's special attack ability, how can it be compared with the Salted Fish King? The electric grid that bloomed like a shining electric flower on the seafloor directly defeated all the evil waves. At the same time, it electrocuted the Overlord Megalodon very quickly. The Overlord Megalodon wants to hit and bite the Overlord Gyarados at close range, but why? It can't even do such a thing. Hitting this power grid. The Overlord Megalodon dare not try this terrifying power grid. He doesn't have any internet addiction that needs treatment. This time, the Overlord Megalodon made a mistake. Since the Scarlet Salted Fish King dares to chase him, he has his own trump card, and in the deep sea, electricity is the most unsolvable move. If the Overlord Megalodon hadn't left the group to lure the Scarlet Salted Fish King to the bait, the Salted Fish King himself wouldn't have even dared to use the 100,000 volts permeated by the power grid. It is simply impossible to use the Salted Fish King. Kill 1,000 enemies and suffer 800 losses. Now, the Overlord Megalodon used a trick to lure the Scarlet Salted Fish King to the deep sea. The Scarlet Salted Fish King used the trick and gave the Overlord Megalodon a thunderous blow in the deep sea. It was precisely because of the first terrifying collision that the Overlord Megalodon completely ignored the Scarlet Salted Fish King's special attack capabilities. Now, the initiative falls into the hands of the Scarlet Salted Fish King. Being close to the King of Heaven, so what? Feel the thunder. And 3. Pokemon's Character Master. Author, AI Ren Huo Chiang Xiao. Chapter 488. Escape. The Overlord Megalodon will not just sit there and wait for a painful electric treatment from the electric grid. As for the Overlord Megalodon, he doesn't want to force himself to take 100,000 volts. Since he doesn't want to be shocked, he has only one choice: escape. Where to escape? The Overlord Megalodon explains, what is called the 3 caves of the cunning rabbit. Burrow into the ground. The venue here is the place that the Overlord Megalodon is most familiar with. The deep sea dust and fog are only one of the means. The plague atmosphere here is completely purified in this vibrant power grid. The environment that the Overlord Megalodon relies on, almost everything is lost, except the ground under the sea. Burrow into the ground. This was the last resort for the Overlord Megalodon to save his life in this place. Although he had thought about what he would do if he encountered an irresistible underwater electric move, he had never thought about using electric moves. It's a dominant Gyarados. In the somewhat astonished eyes of the Scarlet Salted Fish King, the Overlord Megalodon could not care about his face. In the sea, only the living Overlord is called an Overlord, and the dead Overlord Megalodon. It's just a shark sculpture. The Overlord Megalodon dug a hole in the ground of this place. The seabed soil here does not seem to be particularly tight. Moreover, this is the territory that the Overlord Megalodon found specially for the purpose of needing it one day. Superior. Only. The Overlord Megalodon didn't expect that he would be forced to this point by a Gyarados whose strength was no more than an ordinary gym level. The aura of this Gyarados, at this moment, already has an aura that surpasses that of the Overlord Megalodon. Even the Scarlet Salted Fish King himself didn't realize that a hidden characteristic called overconfidence lurked in his body, quietly triggering it in his subconscious. Boom. The tail of the Overlord Megalodon was still damaged by the electric grid. In this unspeakable pain from being electrocuted to its tail, the Overlord Megalodon still bit its huge mouth and sprayed out rapid water from its tail, causing its own the body is digging holes faster again. He wants this Overlord Gyarados to pay the price. As the Overlord of the ocean, Megalodon does not only rely on strong strength. It is true that strong strength is fundamental, but only with a flexible and cunning brain can it lead the entire Megalodon population to make waves in the sea. At the same time, it can also ensure the safety of the ethnic group. In the mind of the Overlord Megalodon, he remembered that it was just the eagle that he accidentally attacked. The changes that had taken place on this Overlord Gyarados were not that scary before, especially because it used to have blue scales, but now, as if the whole body was colored by anger, turning into terrifying scarlet. A crazy smile appeared on the corner of the Overlord Megalodon's mouth. While digging quickly, he was thinking in his mind, make this Overlord Gyarados even crazier. There seems to be a Slowking sitting behind Bidiao, right? By the way, there are 2 more trainers. For the Megalodon, which has both water and evil elements, the Super-type Elf is just of no use. The powerful Super-type moves do not pose any threat at all. Hoo-hoo. A cunning and sinister look flashed in the eyes of the Overlord Megalodon, and he headed towards the other end of the ground, struggling to get through. Boom boom boom. The scarlet salted fish king, who was extremely calm in the deep sea at the moment, looked coldly at the megalodon shark on the ground that had penetrated into the ground. This could indeed withstand the terrifying power grid of 100,000 volts, but, what about that move? Roar. Noise. The terrifying noise of the scarlet salted fish king. This is the bottom of the deep sea. If the salted fish king hits the ground here hard, it will not be able to cause earthquakes like the ones caused by water splashing on land. The soft ground will probably be like the overlord megalodon. Instead of causing the earthquake, caused a big hole to sink into the ground. It's not possible to cause earthquakes by splashing water, but noise is okay. The sound waves of the deep sea were like an amplified volume, and the noise of the salted fish king roared fiercely towards the hole where the overlord megalodon penetrated. Boom 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 boom. The seafloor ground that covered the overlord megalodon began to vibrate crazily at this moment. Following the dug hole, the entire ground began to shake and crack uncontrollably, and an abyssal crack spread rapidly towards the overlord. Attacked in the direction of the megalodon. Who? The overlord megalodon, which was trying to escape by digging holes, felt the terrifying vibrations around it. How could it dare to continue digging deeper? There was a trace of resentment in its eyes, and it quickly rushed out towards the bottom of the sea. Dust filled the air, and the embarrassed figure of the overlord megalodon emerged from the ground. Almost the moment he emerged, the ground beneath him began to rapidly split in all directions. Whoosh! It's not a good place to stay for a long time. The overlord megalodon didn't dare to stay here at all. In his sinister eyes, the light of resentment looked deeply at the overlord Gyarados behind him. Go find Nabidiao. This time, the overlord megalodon wants this Gyarados to understand what is true unscrupulous means. Roar. The moment the scarlet salted fish king saw the overlord megalodon emerge, he once again swept up his tail and chased away. Another dragon dance, this second dragon dance, was under the guidance of Kuai Long of the East China Sea Dragon Palace, spread out easily. The overlord megalodon looked coldly at the overlord Gyarados that was gradually approaching behind him. His body suddenly moved, and with the blessing of high-speed movement, he once again opened some distance between him and the overlord Gyarados behind him. On the way to escape from the deep sea and prepare to return to the primitive sea, the overlord megalodon once again sprayed powerful water arrows behind it, like a deep-sea missile, hindering the speed of the scarlet salted fish king. It's just that in this deep sea, the salted fish king once had unparalleled superb traveling skills when he was still a carp king. At this moment, even facing the high-speed attack of water and sharp arrows, the salted fish king quickly twisted and landed in the deep sea. A dark red arc was drawn in the deep sea, almost without slowing down at the same time. It also caught up a lot of distance. However, no matter how fast the scarlet salted fish king was chasing behind him, he still could not clearly see the cunning and cold gaze of the overlord megalodon at this moment. At this moment, the overlord megalodon was proud of its sense of smell and hearing while hunting in the sea. Locked, the one in the air is carrying the trainer and the dumb eagle. At this time, Bai Diao was at a relatively safe height, carrying Wu Yuqian, Yang Yu, and their elves, hovering in the air and waiting for the final battle. It's a pity that they don't seem to realize the hidden crisis is coming. Yeah. When Dede closed his eyes to feel the salty situation, he suddenly opened his eyes for a moment. An uneasy feeling made Dede couldn't help but tremble. What's wrong? Yang Yu almost finished his words, and the terrifying scene was frozen at this moment. From the calm depths of the sea, a terrifying giant-toothed shark suddenly jumped out with its ferocious mouth open. If it was just a giant-toothed shark, that would be fine. Behind the giant-toothed shark, there were torrents that turned into water arrows all over the sky. The chill completely solidifies the surrounding air. The overlord megalodon, how could he jump so high? Just when Bai Diao wanted to rise high, the water arrows falling from the sky completely blocked the escape route. Dai Dai wanted to use teleportation to escape with Bai Diao and everyone and the elves behind Bai Diao, but the giant the tooth shark not only carries water arrows all over the sky, but also a terrifying wave halo. Waves of evil. The power of evil. Quickly blocked Dudu's superpower at this moment. Quick. Too fast. Everything happened at this moment. The conspiracy of the Overlord Megalodon finally showed its last bloody fangs at this moment. Roar. The shocking red body of the scarlet salted fish king was tilting towards the Megalodon like crazy. Dance of dragons. The third time. The fourth time. The Overlord Megalodon opened its huge teeth and bit down hard on the Overlord Gyarados. Click. The terrifying bite force of the Overlord Megalodon forcefully embedded its teeth into the indestructible red scales of the scarlet salted fish king. Crack, crackle, 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 crackle. The whole body of the scarlet salted fish king ate all the water arrow attacks, buying Bai Diao and Dude time to escape with Yang Yu and Wu Yuqian, but blood stains are flowing at this moment. The painful roar of the scarlet salted fish king completely enveloped the air. That heart-rending sound of pain was like opening a hole in Yang Yu's heart, hammering in the dull heart, and in Wu Yuqian's mind. Shockingly moving. The little fish in the golden conch cap was shocked, and the indelible mark of King Salted Fish's desperate efforts to protect them was left in his mind. Don't want. Tear. The Overlord Megalodon forcefully tore off the bright red scales stained with blood from the body of the scarlet salted fish king, and spat it out into the sea with disdain. A golden figure, with red eyes, jumped angrily from the dull golden conch cap. This speed. Like the flashing thorns of salted fish, the moment the scarlet salted fish king fell heavily into the sea, it attracted the attention of the salted fish king. Little fish, don't jump down. No. At the moment when the Overlord Megalodon raised its head and showed a wild smile, the little fish opened its small mouth, and bit into the red scales that were about to sink into the sea with blood stains. The light of evolution shines as golden as the sun. I bloom in the midst of killing. Just like the flowers at dawn. This chapter is almost 3,000 words long. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Pokemon's Character Master. Author, Ai Ren Huoqiang Xiao. Chapter 489. The golden light of evolution is like shining on the sea surface towards the blue sky, towards the deep blue seabed, and towards the surroundings. The light falls on the scarlet salted fish king, warm, and the scales fall there. The wound began to heal slowly. The little fish looked around blankly, looking at the dazzling golden light exuding from its body. There seemed to be a vigorous life in the short tail, bathed in the golden light, and began to grow vigorously little by little. The bright red scales with blood stains in the mouth began to melt in the golden light under the incredible eyes of the little fish. Some charming and crystal blood-colored scales were dotted on the gradually growing tail of the little fish, like blood. Like a pearl, it emits a coquettish light as the golden light flows. The black eye circles mixed with the corners of the eyes completely dissipated. On the gradually evolving head of the little fish, 2 long red hair like fins and 2 slender eyebrows slowly grew. They were beautiful, dignified, and magical. Yes, as the little fish becomes more or less angry, its red hair like fins and 2 eyebrows, there is a faint tendency to evolve towards bright blue. The body, as smooth and soft as butter, at this moment, is shining with a faint golden color under the golden light. It has the previous ultimate beauty cultivation and a solid foundation. In the process of evolution, the slender body is slowly approaching perfection, and at the same time, at that increasingly enchanting tail, an incredible change happened. The original golden scales on the little fish's body quickly gathered behind them without any waste. In fact, under the majestic life energy of evolution, they began to grow and join together, and together with the melted blood-colored scales, they were connected together. On top of this smooth tail. At this moment, 4 large golden scales slowly unfolded like a fan, and there were dots of golden light. In the center of the large golden scales, there were also a few red dots dotted with blood-red scales. Through the light, it can be vaguely seen that the mysterious vitality contained in this red dot seems to be alive, and it is beginning to burst into life. Through the tail end, it slowly flowed through the whole body of the little fish. At the same time, a faint white mist completely enveloped the whole body of the little fish. Golden scales once again cover the enchanting thin tail on the back half, pregnant with vibrant red scales, mixed in and growing slowly, providing strong external protection for the small fish. When the anger on the little fish disappeared for a short time, as the anger separated, the golden scale tail began to transform towards bright blue, as if a mysterious anger factor was hiding from the golden scales to those mysterious in the blood-red scales. When the little fish needs it, these angry factors will appear again, lighting up all the bright blue scaly tails into gold. The little fish saw her own reflection in the golden light reflected by a flower. When she lowered her delicate and elegant head, she saw that her body had almost the same appearance as the great beauty in the dream. After thousands of evolutions, she brought her, the joy that came made the little fish couldn't help but sing. From now on, the little fish will become a great beauty after evolution. You. The melodious song rippled from the radiating golden light. At this moment, above the sky, behind Baidiao, the healing ringtone, Gray, in Yang Yu's mind finally lit up completely. This is the most complete healing ringtone, and it is also the beautiful healing ringtone belonging to Minas. This song. Sing to the salted fish king and the army of Gyarados and Magikarp fighting bravely on the sea. Big, big, small, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. This is a song that belongs to Magikarp, a song that belongs to Gyarados. Let the healing ringtone heal these brave and capable injured warriors. But for the enemies of the Carp King, for the enemies of the Gyarados, for the Megalodon, the biggest enemy of the Salted Fish King. This is not a healing ringtone. The charming song of the fairy type, at this moment, affects all the Megalodon sharks in the sea, and even affects the king of the Megalodon group, the overlord Megalodon. Minas, who deeply hates the water and evil elements, mercilessly showed his murderous intention to the Salted Fish King in this melodious song. Through the beautiful charming sound, the fighting spirit of the Megalodon is broken down, and the strength of the Megalodon is greatly reduced. Minas is a peace-loving elf. Although he tries to avoid fighting, he doesn't seem to like fighting. Perhaps in historical records, Minas can calm down those who quarrel because of anger. However, at this moment, Minas stood unswervingly on the side of the Salted Fish King, the Gyarados group and the Carp King army. As long as all these Megalodon sharks are killed, peace will naturally arise. Domali doesn't like fighting, and she doesn't like to watch other elves fight, but as long as it's a fight started by King Salted Fish, then you must support it. If the team behaves too lively in the battle for Gyarados and Magikarp's army, it will be the elves who start the group in the battle. At this time, a peace-loving elves need to come out and stop them. It just so happens that the beauty of Minas is such a character. Add a boost to the Gyarados group and the Magikarp army, and add a weakened state to the Megalodon group. If possible, Menus really wanted to single-handedly surround the dozens of lone Megalodon sharks on the opposite side before the Gyarados group and the Magikarp army took action. The Overlord Megalodon's expression changed drastically. How could Minas appear here? Overlord Megalodon, how long has it been since I saw Minas in the ocean? This is an existence that absolutely cannot be messed with. Minas's song can attract beings like the Overlord Roaring Whale King, and it can also attract the peace-loving dragon riding group. Once those terrifying elves rush towards the territory of the Overlord Megalodon, will the Overlord Megalodon and his tribe, can they continue to survive in the Pacific Ocean? Ho, ho ugh. The Overlord Megalodon let out a trembling roar at the group of Megalodon sharks that had fallen into the charming singing. No matter how miserable those Megalodon sharks were at the moment, the Overlord Megalodon could not leave them alone. If there were no Megalodon group Overlord, can we still be called Overlord? Escape. At this moment, the Overlord Megalodon truly felt the fear of facing Minos. This fear was not due to fear of Minos' strength, but fear the race of Minos. Those awakened Megalodons quickly fled with the Overlord. While escaping, they did not forget to shout a wake slap on the faces of those shark eagles who had not awakened from the charming voice. Flee and slap at the same time. If we wait for the Overlord, the Whale King, to come here, that would be bad. Although the Overlord Megalodon knew that he had a chance to defeat the seriously injured Overlord Gyarados, the price he paid was that he would most likely bring his tribe to be buried with the Overlord Gyarados here. Even if it's not for yourself, you have to think about the entire group. In the blink of an eye, the Overlord Megalodon and his group of Megalodon disappeared without a trace. Male blinked her beautiful eyes in the direction of the Salted Fish King. Sigma. Salted Fish King. Who are you? Great beauty. Oh, asterisk, oh. I'm so confused when I write this. Great beauty has finally evolved. This paragraph was really tiring to write. Dear book friends, please vote. Please vote. Please vote. Pokemon's Character Master. Author, AI Ren Huo Chiang Shao. Chapter 490. Yang Yu, look, Minos. I know. Yang Yu. Your ugly fish has evolved into Minos. I know. Yang Yu. Your Minos drove away the Megalodon sharks. I know. Above the sky, Yang Yu and Wu Yuqian were like robots. They could only ask questions and answer questions. Moreover, it sounded like the program designers were not very good at it, and they only talked nonsense. Finally, during this stuck conversation, Yang Yu's program stopped working. Hey! Ha 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 ha! Not only did the dialogue program fail, it was even infected with a magical virus called sand sculpture. In this vast sea, there was a goose, or of course it could be a pig, whose arrogant laughter seemed like noise pollution. The whole eagle that was waving its wings was in bad shape. The source of this magical sound was behind it. Bai Diao really wanted to swoop down and aim at the sea, leading Yang Yu behind him to have a big collision between heaven and earth. If I could add a line to Bai Diao. Probably. You are laughing so hard. But at this time, can you not laugh heartily? The evolution of Xiao Xiao has always affected Yang Yu's heart. The conditions for the evolution of beauty are very demanding. This not only requires improving Xiao Xiao's external beauty, but also requires Yang Yu to cultivate his inner beliefs. In the process, I became more and more determined. Fortunately, this road is open. Yang Yu will not forget the extremely dangerous scene not long ago. The environment was blocked by evil waves. Dede was unable to use teleportation with Bai Diao. Bai Diao's escape route was also blocked by thousands of water and ice arrows. King Magikarp, after evolving, he will become Gyarados, so he can protect my brother. This sentence popped up silently in the depths of Yang Yu's mind. It was very, very early, on the first day that Yang Yu caught the Salted Fish King. It was Yang Xiao who said this to the Salted Fish King in the basin. Xiao Yu, the Salted Fish King has protected us, and the little fish has also evolved into a great beauty to protect us. Yang Yu gently hugged the shivering mini-dragon and the little dream demon in his arms, murmuring softly. Wu Yuqian came back to his senses a little at this time, and solemnly raised his hands in the direction of Yang Yu, using their unique secret code to express gratitude. Junior brother Han, Thank you very much. Yang Yu smiled and put his hand on Wu Yuqin's cupped hands. Senior brother Qian, we have a lifelong friendship. Looking at the sky, it is still so blue, and the sea is still so vast, but my mood quietly changes. Above the sea, the recognition show between De Mali and De Xianyuqing is still going on. When he was in the top secret realm of the East China Sea Dragon Palace, the Salted Fish King was unable to enter the deepest part of the Dragon Palace because of his huge body, and naturally he had never seen Venus in the aurora. The great beauty before my eyes. The Salted Fish King was almost stunned. Where is my little fish? Why did the golden light become like this after a flash of light? The Salted Fish King's eyes were dull. He had never seen such an elf before. How should I put it? It was just that kind, very beautiful. She is so beautiful that her IQ can be -1 -1 -1 -1. The Salted Fish King is a bit of a recipe. The soft light shining in the beautiful eyes in front of her seemed as if she had known him, the Salted Fish King, for a long time. However, the Salted Fish King did not know such an elf. However, in the beautiful fan-shaped fish tail with faded gold and covered with bright blue, those dark red and deep crystal dots gave the Salted Fish King a stunning and extremely familiar feeling. This feeling, it's as if it comes from the Salted Fish King. That is, those bloody scales falling off his body. In fact, the Salted Fish King had already thought that the big beauty in front of him was the little fish he once was, but he didn't dare to admit it. Such a fantastic evolution. Even in a dream, it might not happen, right? The Salted Fish King seemed to have forgotten that when he was the Carp King, such incredible evolution still happened to him. But when such an incredible evolution appeared in Xiao Xiao, it even made it even more difficult for the Salted Fish King to believe it. After all, when the little thing was very, very, very little, it was as ugly as a little one. The Salted Fish King remembered that before Xiao Xiao had not evolved, he was still competing with Xiao Xiao in beauty. Now it seems that the Salted Fish King cannot compare to the great beauty of Xiao Xiao after his evolution. De Mali's extremely concerned eyes looked softly at the injured area on the Salted Fish King's neck where the scales had fallen off. The Salted Fish King's powerful regeneration power was fully operating at this time. Maybe it would take a long time to grow new scales. A period of time. Roar. The Salted Fish King really couldn't stand this. From the Salted Fish King's point of view, well, it's just like that, with such gentle and tender eyes. It would be better if she was more fierce. If she was more fierce, she could beat her to tears. The Salted Fish King quickly shaking his head, this is a small fish. After evolution, the great beauty is still a small fish. De Mali moved forward and swam a little further. The Salted Fish King followed the trend and retreated a little. De Mali continued to move closer and swam a little further. The Salted Fish King hurriedly retreated a short distance. Such a scene of you chasing me made all the Gyarados army dumbfounded. Cluck, K. Ka. The reborn Carp Kings were extremely excited on the sea. After experiencing a dangerous escape, they could finally rejoice. Water splashes, water splashes, water splashes. Hey, what is the king doing there? A group of Carp Kings with dull eyes looked at the extremely harmonious scene in bewilderment. Over there, the Salted Fish King, there was actually a very, very beautiful elf chasing the injured king. If you chase him like this, the injuries on your body will be even more serious. Hey, goblin! Let go of our king. Otherwise, we will use the salted fish thrust taught by the king. I don't know whether it was because of the glare from the salty fish king or the fierce glare from the great beauty. All the Gyarados in the Gyarados army, including little Gyarados, all turned their heads silently, as if forming a wall of blue. The wall also blocked the sight of the Magi Carp King's army. You can't look at the little carp, or you'll get needle eyes if you look at it. The Magi Carp King's army was excited, and they all used water splashing to express their intention to save the king from the fire and water. But nothing happened. Just by a very accidental move by the Salted Fish King, the beautiful body immediately wrapped around the Salted Fish King's neck, but very carefully avoided the wound where the scales fell off. The Salted Fish King blinked. He thought of his owner Yang Yu, who often had the mini dragon wrapped around his neck. At this moment, he finally understood why his neck was so tightly wrapped, but why Yang Yu didn't stop the mini dragon from doing this. This feeling. So cool. The Salty Fish King timidly closed his eyes, not daring to look at the beautiful and enchanting figure, and not knowing what the beauty was going to do. Fear. Male carefully stared at the broken scales on Salty Fish King's neck. At this moment, the wound has been mostly healed, but it lacks the protection of the scales, which affects her handsome appearance. However, such scars are not good for Male. Let's talk. But it is the most dazzling mark on the Salted Fish King, and it is also the most handsome and beautiful place. The Salted Fish King secretly opened a few eyes and looked at the beauty in front of him dimly. Being pestered like this, the Salted Fish King didn't even dare to take a breath. After all, great beauty is an existence that can drive away even the overlord Megalodon. At the same time, there were countless curious Gyarados, including Gyarados, who wanted to know what they were doing behind the scenes. Some Magikarp took advantage of the Gyarados being distracted and sneaked to the side. Jumped a little. Who says elves don't gossip? At this moment, Male's mind moved slightly and she moved towards the direction of King Salted Fish's wound. Gyarados Army. Carp King Army. Salted Fish King. The beauty gently licked the wound that represented glory on the neck of the Salted Fish King. An incredible scene was born at this moment. There seemed to be dots of golden light around it, like unfolding meteors, with mysterious healing power, in the Salted Fish King. The wound on his neck began to condense rapidly. The Salted Fish King didn't even dare to look. He is just a Salted Fish King caught by Yang Yu who knows nothing and knows nothing. It would be nice if Yang Yu knew some tricks to flirt with girls, but Yang Yu just wants to beat the girl who cries. It's all Yang Yu's fault. Yi. The big beauty raised her head with a smile. Her masterpiece is finished. However, Male seemed to have discovered something. Out of the corner of her eye, she glanced over and saw somewhere on the sea. In an instant, the Gyarados army all started tearing apart and shivering, and Gyarados used his tail to sweep back the few Magikarps that sneaked out of the team. What are you looking at? What catches your eyes? Ho ho ho, that's really beautiful. Click, click, click. Yi. Yi. Male touched the Salted Fish King's neck with her gentle tentacles. Only then did the Salted Fish King open his eyes, and under the signal of the beautiful tentacles, he looked at the injured area on his neck. An incredible scene occurred. The wounds have almost completely healed, and even more incredible, bright blue scales with golden dots are already covering the wound. The pattern left behind. It's a little fish spitting bubbles. Mad, so sour, the author himself can't stand it.